Welcome everybody to the God, King, Father, Friend podcast. My name is Hike.
And I'm Jeremy.
What are we talking about today, Jeremy?
Today we're going to pick up where we left off last time. We mentioned we get into the house story versus the home story. That's obviously going to get us into the Genesis chapter 1 text, figuring out what that story really is about. And then because it's really a physical objects versus order clash of ideas. And the tail end of all of that is going to be more reframing with a ton of things that need to be reframed around this concept of non-existence to existence, chaos to non-order, non-order to order, and then order to disorder. Yeah.
So still in the theme of reframing, we're going to have a ton of information in this one too, so get ready. I guess before we get started, then we'll do our housekeeping. First, let's thank everybody for watching, liking, subscribing, sharing. You can support us by going to patreon.com/iconicpodcast. You get all the podcasts there first, then they come out on YouTube and everywhere else. Talking about everywhere else, we're everywhere: YouTube, Rumble, Instagram, Facebook. So you can find us everywhere by just looking up the Iconic Podcast. What else do we have?
They can support us at theiconiclabel.com where they can get hoodies, hats, t-shirts, and package deals on the website. The truncated version of where they can find us in terms of platforms is who.be/iconic. And we'll have all the major platforms listed there. And then the highlights channel. Yeah,
also the highlights channel, the Iconic Highlights. It's on YouTube where we post shorter version, somewhere around 8 to 10 minute version of the podcast, mainly like covering one question or, so if you don't have too much time or you need a section to share, you can find those there.
I think that's about it. Ready to jump into the notes?
Yeah, again, so for everybody that's listening, I want to make sure that everybody knows, if the information is a lot and it's good information, if you want to have references or if you want to keep up as we go, you can go to the video version of it and we show our notes, so it's easier for you to follow.
What we didn't mention is we changed the color palette. So it's now it's in versus on dark mode.
Now that everything comes in dark mode, all my phone stuff is dark mode too. If they offer to do it, so we did that too.
So hopefully this is easier on the eyes. All right, let's go ahead and jump into it. So we mentioned house story versus the home story. This is an extremely important theme because Genesis 1 has always been read as though it's talking about the physical account of creation, as if the first thing that's made is light, and then you go all the way through to the seventh day where you get the Sabbath implemented. But is that really what it's about? And so let's go ahead and read Genesis chapter 1. In the beginning, God created the heavens and the earth. The earth was without form and void, and darkness was upon the face of the deep. And the Spirit of God was hovering over the face of the waters. Then God said, "Let there be light." And there was light. God saw the light that it was good, and God divided the light from the darkness. God called the light day, the darkness he called night. So the evening and the morning were the first day. And so there's a whole bunch of goodies here. So why does God call light day and the evening and the morning aspect? You don't get an evening and morning on the seventh day. So there's these things would be screaming a certain idea if you're in the ancient Israelite audience. But if we read this as a modern reader would read through it, it sounds like it's giving us a chronology of creation. And so there's some reframing that needs to be done. So thinking of physical objects versus order or functional ontology, as it'll be known as later. If you're thinking of the passage that's referring to physical objects, then we've kind of already missed the meaning of the passage. If we think it's about the creation of space, time, matter, energy, plasma, dark matter, dark energy, then we're missing the point of the passage because none of those guys had any of those ideas about those concepts.
I think we have a list of if it was written today, how it would be, right? And knowing that when we know, maybe one of these we'll cover that too.
So actually, that was the piece that goes before this one that I took those excerpts out because we're going to use that. We're going to repurpose that for something else. And so it can't be about any of those things, and we're going to see basically why. We learn from the home story that this is God's home. The creation is his home. He owns it. It's basically his bed and breakfast, his Airbnb, and he allows us to share this space with him. And so even though God has provided it for us, It's not even about us. The cosmos is not ours to do as we please, but it's God's place where he chooses to partner with us as his co-regents. And so our ruling, he gives us dominion over this space, and our ruling is carried out in full recognition that we are merely partakers, caretakers, or stewards over the creation that he's given us. And so this is not just a house that we inhabit. It's God's home, that we are his guest, and we're accountable to him for how we use it. And so many people have looked at the 7 days and think that they relate to the age of the earth because they read the chapter as a house story. So if you're thinking about the building of a physical house, well, how many days did it take you to do the foundation or put in the electrical system or the plumbing or the windows or the drywall, whatever it is? And so the age of the earth pertains to a material creation of the universe. And so, but if this is a home story, then, it has nothing to do with the age of the physical cosmos. And so a period of 7 days does not pertain to how long it took to build the house. It pertains to the process by which the house becomes a home. And so it may take a developer 7 months to build a house. It may take you only a few days, maybe a week to make that house your home. And so God did not just build the cosmos. He made it work in a certain way for a certain reason and sustains it moment by moment. And so this next piece is very important. The cosmos is a temple, and as a temple, it is sacred space. And so when God enters the cosmos or the temple, he established this idea of sacred space. Sacred space is the result of his presence being made manifest and in the source of order. And so order is the highest commodity in the ancient world as it is today. So we desire order in the world, our governments, our local, state, national governments, our jobs, our homes, our lives, our personal lives, our relationships with each other. And the means by which we get more order is by more wisdom or the application of knowledge. And so these things are going to work in tandem because we're going to remember that there's this tree of there's 2 trees in the garden, right? So, and those trees are very thematic. They mean a lot. So, but keeping with the house story for now, in this home story, God is not only making a home for people; He's making a home for Himself. Though He doesn't need a home for Him to dwell in. So, if God is,
but it's more like for us to be somewhere with Him, right? Yeah.
Right. So God doesn't need light to see. God doesn't need any of the things that the creation would need. God has, as we mentioned in the previous podcast, He's perfect. He's completely self-contained. He's outside the framework of time. All those concepts, right? So, in order to have relation with us, well, we need those things for survival, right? So. So God does not rest in this ordered space until something happens, until He goes through this ordering process. So the days are without their significant purpose until the 7th day. So the cosmos is not just a house. It's now becoming this home theme. So Yahweh is holy, and where His presence is manifest is called sacred space. And so though Yahweh is holy, mankind is also fit for sacred space. They were created to enjoy His presence. And so, heaven is not this theme park where you go and I get to, hang out on the clouds and play harps. Heaven is only heaven because Yahweh's presence is manifest there. If He were here, then this
would be heaven. Yeah.
Right. And so these are important ideas that are known by the Israelite audience, and they're the way that the story is being cast. It would be difficult for us to pick up on those things unless we can unearth those themes and then understand those themes in light of the story that's being told. And so now we get this idea that Eden is the nexus point, the conjoining of the heavens and the earth. Eden is where Yahweh has ordered a place on earth for His presence to dwell with mankind. So the 7th day is the commemoration of the act of Yahweh bringing order out of the chaos. And so making a space habitable for mankind, suitable for His presence to dwell with His new earthly creatures. And so now we're going to get every Sabbath is it's a memorial to the creator of the heavens and the earth and the seas and all that is within them. So on the Sabbath day is when we, pay homage to Yahweh, who is El Shaddai. Who is El Shaddai? That's God Almighty, creator of the heavens and the earth and the seas and all that is within them. And so we'll have some things that we have to note, right? Notice that, it's a weekly Sabbath in the fourth command that we're told to remember. It says, notice that it has his mark within there, has his name, his title, and his territory. The Lord your God, creator of the heavens and the earth and the seas. And so that's his name, his title, and his territory. And so notice that we're told to remember that in the fourth command. And so we're told to remember something else. Notice that Jesus is to remember his death until he returns. And this is because both creation and redemption are two acts that Yahweh alone can accomplish, right? Only he can order those things, right? So these are two events, creation and redemption. Interestingly, today, so Sunday, a day of pagan worship, is remembered as the weekly Sabbath for most people, and Jesus' resurrection is celebrated as instead of his death. And so, and that's on another pagan holiday, on Easter. And so I know a lot of people have a bone to pick with both of those ideas, but it's pretty. We can get into the details of those things.
Once we have all the framework, and there's a lot of topics we need to cover.
First, we'll reframe, and then we'll go back and like the skeleton, we'll put the flesh on those bones. And so these two facts allude to the importance of Adam's failure, because remember, Adam is this. He's a priest, and he's mediating knowledge and access to the true God to the rest of humanity. So if Adam is a priest mediating knowledge and access of Yahweh, and he fails to do his job, then the net result is catastrophic, and it has catastrophic effects for the rest of mankind. And so likewise, when we as believers, we're made kings and priests unto the people. When believers, if we're not taking our roles seriously, mediating knowledge and access of the true God to those who don't know, don't believe, then you get this idea that we're failing just like Adam failed. And the results are equally catastrophic. So the whole so-called Christian world now worships on the wrong day, and they celebrate something that they were never commanded to celebrate. And so, you can say, well, there's nothing wrong with worshiping on Sunday versus Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, but it's not about that.
It's an authority issue, right? We'll cover all that. You can worship him any day you want. Nobody's telling you, but there's a certain authority issue that we're going to get into.
100%. And if you love me, you'll keep my commands, just as I love my Father, keep my Father's commands. So, and so we get this idea that both are profaned. Both of these concepts, the concept of this memorial that we're supposed to have to the creator of the heavens and the earth and the seas and all that is within them, and this idea of redemption, this thing that only the second Yahweh figure can do. Only he can do this redemption thing, and the important piece that he says is to remember his death, and he sets up this ritual that by which we remember the broken body and the shed blood for the remission of sins was the idea. And so again, 1 John 2:4, whoever says I know him but does not keep his commands is a liar, and the truth is not in him. And so this would apply to the Ten Commandments as well as the commands that are issued by Jesus, the monogenes, the one-of-a-kind, the unique Son of God. And so every Sabbath is like Father's Day, where we give an account to the Father of what we have done based on his good order. And this ordering stuff is probably the most, I would say, kind of off the radar idea, because when we get into modern issues, people would ask, "What's wrong?" With doing a lot of things that we see done today, right? So it's because the original order is lost, and that's where the issue lies.
If you pay attention, then you can clearly see that it's going towards the disorder or the chaos, right? So. Whereas for them, they go from chaos to order to chaos. We have to do the other way around, right?
And so now Eden is therefore a sacred space. So we come back to this. Eden is the perfect paradise on earth, because this is where the manifest presence of Yahweh is. Eden is the nexus point where Yahweh will rule both the physical and the spiritual worlds combined. Yahweh's divine and human imagers are there together. Yahweh's divine bureaucracy or the divine council, the royal court, is also there. These are the gods or the sons of God that later we'll see get placed over the nations, which we spoke about in the previous podcast. So, so only Eden, we have to remember, only Eden was ordered by Yahweh as the perfect paradise, where the rest of the world was left unordered. Yeah. And so, here's where the themes of chaos, non-ordered, order, or disorder themes become very important. So mankind, as Yahweh's imagers, are tasked with making the rest of the world like Eden. And so the Garden of Eden was this perfect paradise where the rest of the world was not. So mankind was supposed to partner with Yahweh in order to bring his order to the rest of the world.
So in other words, with the title of the video, there's a whole bunch of houses, go make them homes. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so now to do this, we partner with Yahweh to make the rest of the world like Eden. And so to spread human life over all of the domain which he gave us dominion over, lived as Yahweh intends for us to live, mankind in sacred space, and a one male, one female are chosen for the task. The task is to be priests to the rest of mankind. And so Adam and Eve are then not necessarily the mankind of Genesis chapter 1, the ones that when John in verse 1 or chapter 1 verse 26, where he says, "Let us make mankind in our image." And so it has been understood that this is the creation of Adam and the creation of Eve, right? So you get like, well, if this is a population, and then the actual Adam and Eve, though they're archetypal, they are still historical people in a real past, and these are the two that are going to be set up as the priests to mediate knowledge and access of the true God.
Yeah. So we have Adam as mankind, and then we have Adam as a human that's going to represent. Yeah.
Yep. And so Adam has a priestly role, caring for sacred space, and so. No, there wasn't this idea of the creation of the heavens and the earth to have two gardeners in Eden mowing the lawn, trimming the shrubs and things like that. So in ancient thinking, caring for sacred space was a way of upholding creation. So how are you going to do that? By preserving the order. Non-order or disorder are held at bay. And so there was this universal belief that, the original order that Yahweh installed must be maintained. The most essential task of an earthly life was to ensure that this order was to be maintained because chaos had existed before the world was ordered. Yeah. And so Yahweh's ordering of a small portion out of the chaos it cast chaos out into the outer realms, and so, or the edges of the world. But there was this idea that chaos was always, though it was at the outer realms, it's always, there's this threat that it may encroach upon this ordered space. And so part of what mankind's task was to do was to reimpose, because we're Yahweh's imagers. We have to reimpose his order. And then we're going to get this idea that, we kind of have an idea about how we want to do that. And there's going to be this split that takes place where...
Yeah, because we're giving dominion over everything else, but another human, right? So, but it seems like some people want that too.
That is a major problem later, right? So it's not so much a big theme now, but it becomes a major problem later. And so another ancient Near East idea was that, catastrophe could only be averted by, actions of the gods and the men working together to maintain this world order, the original world order that God had imposed. And so in Israelite thinking, God doesn't need any help maintaining the world order, but rather partners with mankind and enjoys working with him and teaching mankind wisdom. And so this is going to be, there's this tree of life and this tree of knowledge or wisdom, and it's going to be this wisdom thing that's going to be grasped that becomes the major problem or the precursor or the reason for the fall. And so maintaining order made one a participant with God on an ongoing task of sustaining the equilibrium that God had established in the cosmos. And Egyptian thinking, the idea applied not only to the priest and sacred space, but into it extended out into the kings. And the kings were to complete what was unfinished and to preserve the order, or even remodeling and improving the creation and imposing more and more order.
Yeah.
And so these ideas are not just in the biblical text. These are Mesopotamian ideas. They carry through to earlier and even later histories.
I mean, even from like the Cyvilan side of it too, once we get into the mystery religions there, we're going to see that, like again, the whole kings, their divine powers and stuff that they have also the same task, but they keep the order of some other beings rather than gods, right?
Yes. And this is why, we wanted to separate the two concepts. So follow the biblical narrative, follow the secular narrative. And at some point they will cross. There's so much connective tissue between them, and so. But that goes back to the idea. Put all the data on the table. The rational person looking at the data to make a decision.
Yeah, we're gonna see that the major issue is gonna be the authority issue, right? They want to take that away from God,
right? Exactly. Yeah. And so now we get this idea that Adam and Eve are then set apart not only as imagers but as priests to other imagers. Adam served as an archetype with all humanity represented in him. In his priestly role, he serves as a representational agent, serving on behalf of humanity. All humans are represented by him. So Adam's role is kind of understood in the light of the role that the priests in the ancient world. So this is kind of like what we do with representational government today. People are represented by their elected officials or their rulers or the monarch or whatever it is.
Yep.
And so it's same concept. And so what does a priest do in the biblical sense? Again, they mediate knowledge and access of the true God to other imagers. Adam and Eve then are caretakers of sacred space, mediating access and knowledge of Yahweh to mankind. In short, they're instructed on how to extend Yahweh's order via a couple of things, a bulletized list here. So the Edenic order: be fruitful, multiply, replenish the earth, and subdue it. And so, to subdue the earth, we have to remove some of the chaos that's there. And so how are we going to do that? Well, we're going to impose the order that Yahweh's rule gives us over the rest of the creation that's left incomplete. It's unfinished. It's imperfect. And it's ready for us to partner with him. And these are important concepts, because later on when we ask questions like, well, why does he curse the ground, right? So you'll find out that Adam never gets cursed, so the ground gets cursed. And so, well, why is the ground going to be cursed? This is an interesting piece, because now mankind has taken wisdom and this ordering thing upon himself, and now why is the creation going to suffer? Because now the creation is going to be divorced from its creator, but placed under this proxy, mankind, who has assumed this authority, Yahweh's authority, but doesn't have his knowledge, doesn't have his wisdom. And so mankind is going to work by the sweat of his brow. And you go, well, can the earth then yield to mankind what it would have if they were working in concert with Yahweh? No. And so these are the themes that are going to now permeate the entire text. So you get this: the creation is tainted because the one that Yahweh has put over mankind has now divorced himself from the creator, and so the creation is going to suffer because of that.
It's like, fine, be it your way, right? Do it on your own, let me say.
Yep. And so now you get sacred space existed because of the manifest presence of God, and its preparing of other space for the presence of God is what the task was for Adam. And so now Adam was given access to the sacred space as a priest in order to be involved in preserving this sanctity and mediating its benefits. So sacred space is also the center of order, because order emanates from God himself. And so now we're going to get this idea later that Adam and Eve are banished from the presence of God. They're removed from Eden. And so, Eden, mankind is created and then placed in Eden. So in Eden, in later ideas of the temple, where you get the temple or the tabernacle, and then the temple, the Holy of Holies within the people didn't live in the Holy of Holies, right? So, and those are important concepts to grasp, because there's this thing that needs to be taken care of in order for God to permanently dwell with his people. And this is going to get us on the theme of a Messiah, somebody that needs to undo something that's causing the rift, or the reason for the separation between God and his imagers, his earthly imagers. And so we have this continuous role up into this fall piece where we're God's vice regents, his proxies, his imagers, to preserve the order of the creation and to extend his rule. And so he's given us access to this tree of life thing to sustain us because we are, as the text says, we are from dust. That's a reference to our mortality. So you'll get these ideas that human beings, like, you're mortal in sense of like your human body, but your soul is eternal. Mm-hmm. Like there's only one thing that is eternal, and that is God. God would give everything else its existence. Mankind doesn't become existence simply because we're created by Yahweh, right? So so we get this thematic idea that you are from dust, and to dust you shall return.
Dust to dust.
Yeah. And so, but he withholds from us this tree of wisdom. And so, presumably pending a process by which God, through mentoring us, you get this whole idea of that we are finite and God is infinite. We will forever be mentored by God. We will forever be under his tutelage. And so this thing that we seek out to grasp, this tree of wisdom, is going to be the thing that's going to be what we try to take from Yahweh. And so this was a huge task for mankind to do. And so you get this idea that God therefore observes that it's not good for man to be alone. This has nothing at all to do with, Adam being lonely or needing a companion or a soulmate or a reproductive partner. It's a much bigger idea than that. The task is too large for him to do in his own capacity. So he needs an ally. He needs somebody to help him tend to sacred space. He needs an ontological equal. And so God then shows Adam in a vision, in a deep sleep, that woman is his ontological equal. It's his other side because of this ontological pairing. Man will routinely leave this close biological relationship with his parents to forge what is an ontological rooted relationship in this other side, this partner, this ally in sacred space. And so we'll see, Adam will do a lot of things. We have another bulletized list here. He's going to image God. He's going to impose Yahweh's new ordering endeavor. So though it starts with the Edenic mandate, it certainly doesn't end there. He's going to halt the encroachment of non-order and chaos. He's going to maintain the current ordered state. And to do this, what does he need to do? He needs an ontological equal. He needs somebody to help share the dominion responsibilities included in the previous list. He needs to partner with someone for fulfilling this Edenic mandate. He can't be fruitful, multiply, and replenish the earth by himself. And he has to perform this priestly role of mediating knowledge and access of Yahweh to the existing and future human beings. And so this partner that he needs, this ontological equal, will be different only in role or function, but they're equal. And so if Genesis 1 features the inauguration of the sacred space, of God taking up his rest in his temple, as the centerpiece or the center of sacred space is the garden that serves as the apex of that temple. And so, but instead of paradise lost, we're going to get this idea of paradise forfeited. So we as humanity never achieved the task of our first order of operation, which was to image Yahweh properly. Which is going to culminate in all these different failures. And then these things are going to get compounded by various falls of other supernatural beings and what we would term evil intelligences in the spirit realm that are kind of sowing disorder in Yahweh's ordered realm on this side. And then we get humanity that then partners with those characters to bring about the things that we talk about in the Cyvilan Podcast, which is this whole New World Order concept. And so I think now that's a good place to end this podcast, and we can pick up the rest of it in the next.
Yeah. So the next one we're kind of going to pick up from Adam's sin, right?
Right. So
just to kind of give a little bit preview.
Right. So for the preview, we're going to get into this idea. What was the actual sin of Adam and Eve? What did they do, and why was it so bad? Because it's cast as this disobedience, but it was something more egregious.
And then again, how early Israelites understood, not us modern day thinking, oh, they just ate an apple, what actually it meant, right? That idea. So I guess that being said, then we can conclude another God, King, Father, Friend podcast. We want to thank everybody for watching or listening. We appreciate all the likes, comments, shares, mainly the shares, because again, that seems to be the best way to grow, word to mouth. And we thank you for it. If you want to support us, you can go to patreon.com/theIconicPodcast, where you can get all the podcasts early. You get early access. And then we're still working on some new things and stuff like that too, like in the behind the scenes, how to make the podcast better, and new formats and everything too. That will all come out there first. And also you can go to theiconiclabel.com and purchase a t-shirt, hat, or a hoodie. And those are the main financial ways you can support.
And so I think that's about it. Check out our highlights channel. We have these in smaller digestible bites, as we mentioned in the beginning. And then Instagram, we'll have even smaller pieces that are shareable. And we'll post some more of the God, King, Father. I don't think we've posted any God, King, Father, Friend stuff on Instagram yet.
Not yet,
but we'll do that as well. But I think that's about it.